Muhammad allowed his followers to rape their female captives, their war captives. You go out, you win a battle, a lot of the men will be killed, the women will be taken captive, and what do you do with these women? Do you take them to other people from their tribe who are living somewhere else? Do you take them safely there? Do you marry them? Or do you rape them as much as you want and then sell them as sex slaves in the next town if you decide not to keep them? Which would be the Islamic position, Sam?
Well, the Islamic position, I'm laughing, and I shouldn't laugh because this is a serious thing.
And this still goes on today.
Yeah,
this still goes on today. This is
Islamic
going on in Syria right now.
The Islamic position would tell you that adultery is condemned in all circumstances, except in the situations in which you have taken a woman captive, and it so happens that her husband's still alive. Still, you are free to have sex with her in spite of her husband's being still alive. And then when you comment on that, I want to mention a verse where, according to one particular translation, it's not just your captives, it's even the slave women that you own. But
where are you going? Are you going 424?
It's 424, but it's from Hilali Khan.
Okay, yeah, read 424, and I'll read Sunan Abu Dawud 2150.
They don't limit to just the captives.
Yeah.
This is what's interesting. Now, again, why is Hilali Khan important? These are two Saudi Arabian Salafi Muslim scholars who are backed up by the Saudi Arabian government, right? Now, there's some people who say, well, the Saudi Arabian government's corrupt. Be that as it may, they are Salafi scholars. And my understanding, the Salafi sect of Islam is actually the purest form of Islam out there today. It's the closest expression of Islam that you'll find today because it almost perfectly resembles the Islam practiced by Muhammad and his companions and the two generations after them.
And just so people understand what the importance of this, if you and I were ever to convert to Islam, God forbid, we would be Salafis, would we not?
Yes, God forbid, we would be Salafis.
Yes,
God
go ahead.
forbid. Now here's how they translate this. Also forbidden for you, are women already married, except those, and in parentheses they put, captives and slaves, not just captives, captives and slaves whom your right hands possess. Now what in the world does this mean, David?
Well, here is one of those interesting situations where when we bring up a passage, Muslims always say context, right? Have to go to the historical context. Amen. We want to go to the historical context on this because that's what tells you exactly what this verse means. If you want to say, oh, it's saying that that your captives and that married women are forbidden to you, except your captives and slaves, what in the world does that mean? You have to look at the context for that. Well, we've got the context, my Muslim friends. We've got the context over and over and over again in the Muslim sources. Let me give you the context. This is Sunan Abu Dawud, number 2150. The Apostle of Allah sent a military expedition to Autas on the occasion of the Battle of Hunain. They met their enemy and fought with them. They defeated them and took them captives. So, they defeated their enemy and took them captives. Some of the companions of the Apostle of Allah were reluctant to have intercourse with the female captives in the presence of their husbands who were unbelievers. So there had been other battles where Muslims had killed the men and then taken the women captives, and they knew that they were allowed to have sex with their female captives because the Quran guaranteed them that right. But the question now was, now we captured the men and the women. So these aren't just our female captives, these are married female captives. They have, isn't this adultery? So Muhammad's companions were reluctant to have sex with them. Wait, we're not sure what to do here. And they go to Muhammad for advice. Muhammad, what should we do? So, some of the companions of the Apostle of Allah, going back to the passage, some of the companions of the Apostle of Allah were reluctant to have intercourse with the female captives in the presence of their husbands who were unbelievers. So Allah the Exalted sent down the Quranic verse, and all married women are forbidden unto you, save those captives whom your right hands possess. What verse is that, Sam?
That's chapter 4, verse 24, what I just read.
That is to say, finishing the passage, that is to say, they are lawful for them when they complete their waiting period. So there would be a waiting period to make sure that the woman wasn't pregnant from her husband. After that, you can have sex with them all you want, even though they're married. Their marriage doesn't matter. So context does matter, my Muslim friends, but context doesn't help you. When you actually go to the context, you find out these verses are every bit as despicable as they sound. And that is a horrible, horrible teaching. You can capture a woman and her husband and then rape the woman in the presence of her husband, and who cares?
Exactly.
They're filthy unbelievers. But Allah says it's all okay. Allah puts His stamp of approval on it.
And I also find it ironic that this is a Saudi Arabian translation that says it's not just limited to captives and slaves. In light of all the reports we hear that come out of Saudi Arabia, where you have maids who are being raped by their employers, like you hear about stories, atrocities done to Filipino maids in Saudi Arabia. Now, why in the world would these Filipino maids get raped? Well, because according to the Quran, being a maid means that you're their slave, and your employer wouldn't consider it rape. He would consider it his conjugal rights, because after all, you are his slave. So is it a coincidence that this Saudi Arabian version of the Quran inserts within parentheses not just captives, but even slaves that you own, in light of all these atrocities we hear that takes place in Saudi Arabia?
And so the point there is, this isn't just some irrelevant teaching from 14 centuries ago. These teachings have practical consequences in the world today, which is one of the main reasons we deal with them, because someone has to deal with them, otherwise the practices are never going to end.